Call the Thursday morning, February 13th meeting of the Highway and Building Committee to order. Start with roll call, please.
Mr. Washington, Mr. Kinzinger, Mr. Hess,
Present.
Mr. Tholen, Ms. Polk, Mr. Snipes, Ms. Peters, Mr. Zenz, Ms. Haas, Mr. Carrico, Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Featherling, Mr. Smith, Mr. Dunnell, Mr. Long, Mr. Kirkstra, Mr. Wheeler. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I've not received anything for public comment at this time. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Take a motion to approve the minutes of January 16, 2019. Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Long. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Take a motion to amend the agenda and have the bid opening for the courthouse ADA improvements. Ms. Haas, second by Ms. Peters. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Yep.
You're up.
You're up.
All right, this is the bid opening for the courthouse ADA remodeling for Kankakee County. The bid period for the project is now officially closed. We had 3 contractors show up to the mandatory pre-bid meeting: Johnson Downs Construction, Kevin Nugent Construction, and Piggish Semino. The bids are base bid 1, general work to include all work for the project. The county, as always, has the right to reject any or all bids and to waive informalities in bidding. We have no bid from Johnson Downs Construction this morning. And our first bid is from Kevin Nugent Construction.
Oh, 1 second. Yeah, thank you. Need a motion to open the bids. Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Featherling. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, now here we go. Kevin Nugent Construction submits bid security in the form of a 5% bid bond. They have acknowledged receipt of addendums number 1 and 2 and have submitted a base bid price of $124,140, $124,140. There are no proposed product substitutions. Bidder information and project history has been submitted. Our next bid is from Piggish Semino. Piggish Semino has submitted a bid security in the form of a 10% bid bond. They've acknowledged receipt of addendums number 1 and 2. Have submitted a base bid price of $81,870, $81,870. No proposed product substitutions. Bidder information and project history has been submitted. No other bids submitted on the project. The bid is officially closed for the ADA courthouse remodeling. We will confer with Piggish Semino on their bid and make sure that they've got everything covered, and we will make a copy of the bids and write a recommendation to the county to accept PSI as the low bidder on the project.
Take a motion to accept the lowest, most responsible bid. Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Peters. Discussion. Mr. Smith.
Just for clarification, is this for the ramp?
It's for both the exterior ramp modifications at the courthouse and also the remodeling of courtroom 204 to make that accessible.
Thank you.
No other discussion? Oh, Mr. Featherling.
Does that include barricades and proper weather protection and things, or is that responsibility of the county?
The contractor is responsible for barricading.
Okay, and then rain coverage in case it rains, stuff
Yes.
like that?
Yep.
Okay. How about the safety of vehicles and stuff?
That's,
around the area?
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. Where was the curb and sidewalk in this as well? And that's a separate situation. Just want to clarify. Now, Wes, what was the amount of the grant? Total amount? I know that doesn't include everything we're talking about right now, but 150? Is that the number?
No, I think the grant was 164,000.
164. Okay. So the committee knows. And these are the last ADA items beyond the steps that we're
Yeah,
talking
there's we have the front steps of the courthouse. We've got sidewalks and curbs, the ramp, the interior. So all that is going to fall under that one grant. So this is all going to add up to hopefully get us to where that grant number was at. So.
about. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Featherling.
Is that a match grant? We have to provide any of that funds out of that money?
No, we got to reimburse. That's the only
Reimburse, you have to pay up front and
caveat,
then wait for your
yeah.
money? How long is the time for the money usually for that, something like that?
How long before we get it back?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask.
is it 90 days, 100 days, 120?
I don't know. Chairman Wheeler, do you have any thought on that?
Well, what are we into this administration? About a year?
Probably.
The previous administration, it was never before. They stuck us with a grant on the courthouse because we did it right before we changed from one governor to the next, and the other one cut us off. This one I expect within 6 months or at the longest, because we still have a lot going on this administration. So
Okay,
we've got the cash flow.
okay.
And I will add, it has to be completed by June 30th for the grant. So.
Any other questions or comments? Be a roll call vote.
Mr. Hess,
Or aye.
Ms. Peters. Aye. Ms. Haas.
Aye.
Mr. Carrico.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler. Motion carries.
Mr. Washington.
Mr. Washington.
Mr. Snipe.
Mr. Snipes.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to the agenda, highways, Mr. Rogers.
Good day.
We have no bid letting today. In your package, you have a county engineer's pay estimates. Good morning, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning. I have just a few pay estimates this morning. The first one is for Compass Minerals for our county general maintenance for 2020, and that is for rock salt delivered to our yard, and that amount is $84,628.50. Next is our county general maintenance for 2020, payable to Kankakee Valley Construction for cold mix, which is easy fiber mix, and that amount is $1,380. And lastly is our county general maintenance for 2020, pay estimate to Vulcan Materials Company. This is for road mix picked up at the quarry with our trucks, and that amount is $86.38.
Take a motion to approve. Mr. Long, second by Mr. Carrico. Roll call vote.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes. Ms. Peters. Ms. Haas. Mr. Carrico. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Long. Mr. Kirkstra. Mr. Wheeler. Motion carries.
Next up, the transfer of County Highway 1 from Kankakee County to Will County.
Okay. Jeff Ronaldson, the county engineer from Will County, contacted me a few weeks ago and proposed that we do a jurisdictional transfer. Basically, they would like to take over our County Highway 1, our portion on the north county line of County Highway 1, which I gave you a full colored county map. Up in the northeast corner in Yellowhead Township, you'll see that number 1 there. That's County Highway 1, and the red area is ours. That's our jurisdiction, and then Will County has the rest of it to the county line. They're proposing to take that from us and have it under their jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the next jurisdictional transfer is from Will County to Kankakee County, and that's County Highway 16, which is in the northwest corner of Sumner Township, right, just to the east of Mantino Township, where it says the little 16. That red line will go almost to County Highway 17, so it'll kind of fill in the a loop, and it actually is helping both of us because County Highway 1 is kind of a straggler for us to get snow removal and things like that. There is a bridge on County Highway 1, and this doesn't make any difference as far as construction goes because when a bridge is on a county line, each county pays their fair share based on assessment value. So even if it was ours and we were going to replace that bridge, our portion would be based on assessment. So that doesn't really change matters in that respect. I would like to do it. I would recommend it. County Highway 1 is way out for us. Just a little mile and a half stub there. Will County takes good care of their roads. So I would entertain any questions or discussion.
Questions? Take a motion to go ahead and do this. Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Washington. Now we go into discussion. Mr. Eckhoff.
Pretty much, I just want to say I agree with you, Mark. It makes a lot of sense. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's all I have today.
Did you ever find out what's going on Route 117 with the stop and go lights?
No, I can't get an answer.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Dr. Jeff, I'm just gonna ask about that. Did we ever get anything from that? Not yet. Okay.
Okay, next up, Mr. Andrews. George or Ron, you want to come up here? Facility dude report.
All right, we had 200 work orders in the month of January. That's obviously a pretty busy month. We'll move on to the financial report. You've got a summary there in front of you of the expenses for the month of January. I'll call out some of them here. Under service contracts, we had the invoice for Kone, which is our preventative maintenance elevator agreement for all the buildings. That totaled $5,784.45. We also had fire alarm inspection due for Jerome Combs from F.E. Moran. That's $1,620. So under service contracts of the 10-8, that's $7,384.65 of that. Moving along, also under service contracts, on work performed by subcontractors, we've got some boiler work that was done at the old jail, 1531. We had tubes leaking in the boiler system at the old jail. That's been repaired. We also had, if you recall, about a month ago, we had heating issues out at Public Safety. We had a heat exchanger issue. We had a carrier board that went out. It went through actually 2 heat exchangers. They put one in, it didn't work right. They had to order another one, pull that one out, put the new one back in. Those repairs totaled I had 2 invoices for that, $1,593 and $35.89. So I've outlined roughly $14,098 of the $26,365. So if there's any other questions on the stuff here, I'd be happy to answer those.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you add a new column for animal control, please?
Yes,
I
yes.
need to see that separately from now on, because they're fixing holes. They didn't have a working bathroom out there. It was awful. So I mean, the dogs and cats did, but not the people.
Right.
So
I can add a column. Is that going to be hitting my budget, or is that
That's
going
on
to
animal
continue to go to
control's
animal control?
That's on animal control's budget. Yes.
Because everything here is on my budget. So,
understand. So
but you
the
still
stuff-
want to see what was spent for animal control on here.
That's what I would like to see.
Okay.
And how
Got
the
it.
rest of the committee feel.
No, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Mr. Featherling,
I feel the same way that we should know what's going on in their building.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah. So what's happened, obviously, with the new administrator, Carrie has gotten us, and the sheriff has asked us to get more involved with the repairs. We always did a little over there, but there's, toilets and faucets and light fixtures and cabinets falling off the walls, and so we've been over there a little bit more than what I would say would have been normal over the last couple of years. So.
go ahead, Mr. Ritter.
Mr. Chairman, I want the committee to understand that this is, it's not punitive or anything, but that building was in complete disrepair. It was not managed whatsoever. It was awful, and we didn't know about it as a committee because nobody ever came to us to tell us that there was any issues there. Now that when the sheriff got in there with the new administrator, they're finding all of these things that need to be addressed just to make it a functioning building. They put keypads on the door, because it was just not acceptable. So I agree with them spending money at least to get it habitable by animals and people, but then, we're not building this out to be some, luxurious resort for animals and people. So I just this is just so it can operate. But I think we do need to see the expenses separately. So
I would think that would be brought up at community service too.
Right.
Yeah. Same time.
Okay. Next on the agenda, I would like to declare, we have a 2000 Dodge Ram 2500 truck that I would like to declare as surplus. It's rusted out pretty bad, does not run well, the transmission is slipping, and then the other caveat to this is the mileage is unknown. I was informed of this when I took over that the dashboard and the odometer hadn't worked in like a decade. So as far as the mileage on the vehicle, that's unknown. So we don't have a use for it anymore. We do have a new truck that we replaced it with, so I would like to declare this as surplus and get rid of it.
Anything else wrong with it? Mr. Snipes makes a motion, second by Mr. Featherling.
I just have a question.
Question.
In order for us to clear the title, you have to have something. What's the process for? You got to get something from the state.
My plan would be to work with Jay Hansen out of the sheriff's department and figure out what what I need to do. If I got to fill out, I heard there's maybe a form from the Secretary of State that I have to fill out for such a circumstance. But okay. Yeah, whatever we need to do, we'll make sure we look into it and it's done correctly.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes.
Yeah, are we just we're not selling it, we're just gonna salvage it, right?
Well, the plan was to bring it to auction.
Oh, to bring it, okay then.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Temporary shutdown of the courthouse.
Ramp.
Ramp.
At the courthouse.
Yeah, ramp. Thank you.
This is on here, just a FYI, when we do begin the repairs that we bid here earlier today, obviously the ramp is going to be under construction. And with that being said, there's going to be a period of time where folks with disabilities and a wheelchair, what have you, are not going to be able to access the courthouse because the ramp is going to be under construction. Doug Bright and I, we've reached out to the Attorney General's office, and there is language in the statute that provides for this type of circumstance. However, you do have to provide proper notice, which is posting signage. I would recommend, putting something on social media. We might want to go so far as to even put something in the Journal, possibly, just so everybody is aware, and we've shown that we've taken, that extra effort to adequately inform the public. Now, the plan is going to be to shut it down Thursday evening at once business closes on Thursday. Work will begin Thursday night, will continue through Friday, Saturday, and then done on Sunday, and then the ramp would then reopen on Monday. So we would be without the ramp for one day, which that's I think that makes a lot of sense to do it that way. We're going to have to figure out, weather to make sure we have a good 3 days there to get this done. But I at least wanted to bring it to the committee so you guys were aware of what the timeline is going to be and that we will be without the ramp for 1 day. So, are there any questions on that?
Mr. Washington.
Will it be proper notification of the courts?
Oh yes, yeah. We've already been in discussion with Chief Judge Kramer, so he's aware of this. So yeah, when we figure it out, what day and what weekend it's going to be, the courts will be notified. I'd like even the attorneys to be notified, because if an attorney has business at the courthouse with a client that has a accessibility issue, they need to be aware as well, so they can help us get the word out.
Mr. Wheeler.
The sheriff and chief judge are both aware and in agreement. We did the extra work to go to or Wes did the extra work to go to the AG's office. I think the Bar Association is probably a good place so they can get the word out to their membership for the private attorneys.
Right.
The ASA and everybody will know about it here on our end. So it's good that it's only a few days instead of a prolonged period.
Yeah, 1 day. That's best case scenario. I think that's that's what we're going to do on that. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware and there were no surprises when that time comes around.
Any other questions or comments? Building report.
I do have. I want to jump back to the bid opening.
Okay.
I do have a couple things here from last meeting. We discussed looking or doing the asphalt, because we were going to look at doing the curbs and the sidewalks, and I'd asked the question: does it make good sense to go ahead with the asphalt as long as we were going to be doing that work anyway? And I think the consensus of the committee was yes, that it makes sense to do that at this time. So to start that process, I went out and I solicited two bids from two engineering companies here in town to help us put together a design plan for the asphalt and the curbs and sidewalks, as well as do a topography study or survey, because we do have some drainage issues. There's some windows at the southeast corner of the courthouse that take on a little bit of water from time to time. So I went out and I've got these bids and I wanted to share them with you now from the two engineering companies. So I've got the first bid is from Piggish Engineering. Their bid for the topography and the site design was $15,625, and then the second from Robinson Engineering for the same, the topographic survey and the site engineering design was $7,300. So with that being said, I would like to I'd like the committee's blessing to move forward on this, and I believe send it to finance for approval on this.
Mr. Kinzinger moves, Ms. Peters second. Discussion? Mr. Wheeler?
Just to remind the committee, we've given the head nod because we figured if while we're tearing the curb and the sidewalk up, address the circle drive then while we're just pulling the Band-Aid off at once.
Right.
We're doing the ramp where it's probably going to be ramp, drive, sidewalk, and curb, and rather than getting back in there with heavy equipment to damage the asphalt again, this makes all the sense in the world to do it all at one time. So depending on the cost of the asphalt, and we don't know what that is until we get into
This is not covered in the grant then?
The asphalt is not covered in the grant,
Okay.
no.
But I asked Wes to see if we can get it covered in the grant. If we're under, can we include it? Because it is part of accessibility and all those different things. So we're still checking. We can't say definitively yet if it is or it isn't.
Any other questions or comments? So we're moving on to finance.
Okay.
Can we vote on that?
Is it part of ADA bid opening? That's the way I viewed it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Need a voice vote?
Oh, roll call.
Mr. Washington? Aye. Mr. Kinzinger? Aye. Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters? Aye. Ms. Haas? Mr. Carrico? Aye. Mr. Eckhoff? Aye. Mr. Featherling? Aye. Mr. Smith? Aye. Mr. Long? Aye. Mr. Kirkstrop? Aye. Mr. Wheeler? Aye. Motion carries.
Okay. Building report.
Building report.
All right, here at 189, not a whole lot to go over. We've been doing a lot of cleaning, with Lysol cleaning, wiping down doorknobs, with the flu that's going around. And I've even had it a couple times, so I've, instructed my people, not only here, but in all buildings, to wipe down the handles and take a little extra care with that. Fire department inspection, we had some corrections to make, the last of which is going to be adding some outlets in for Dan Hendrickson down on the first floor. He's got a lot of different things plugged in a lot of different ways. So we're going to, once the election passes in March, we're going to come in, we're going to install some outlets for him. That way we can eliminate a lot of the cords and such that are in his office. At the courthouse, I do have a hot water heater that's on its last leg. I've got some photos here if anybody wants to see them after the meeting. It's from my best guess, looking at it, I believe it's about 17 to 20 years old. The bottom of it's rusted pretty bad. It's leaking. There's even some associated piping with the water heater that is badly corroded and leaking. So I did get 2 bids on that work. The first bid was $8,430 for the hot water heater and the piping. The second one was $7,750. So I just wanted to let the committee know that that's an expense that's going to be coming down the line, probably by the time we sit here next month. But I do plan obviously to go with the low bidder on that work. At the annex, we had a couple elevator issues. Had Kone out under our preventative maintenance agreement. They're going to make they made the repairs. It's back up and running. It was actually repaired and up and running the same day. Old jail, we had a garbage disposal that was broken by an inmate. I'm working with the detective's office. They're going to pursue legal action against the inmate that broke it, but that doesn't change our situation. We need to get the garbage disposal fixed. So I'm waiting on numbers for that as well. Obviously, that's not a residential type unit. That's going to be a couple $100. That's a large commercial disposal that is going to be pricey. Jerome Combs, we're still working and moving forward with cameras. You recall several months ago we discussed the insurance claim and the cameras. That's moving forward slowly, but it is still moving forward nonetheless. And then recently we had a couple washer and dryer issues out there. Control boards weren't communicating with one another, but that's since been fixed. So that's the conclusion of my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Questions? When's the key thing going to go in for the administration office?
Upstairs here on 5. Did we approve that?
Didn't we approve that a long time ago?
We approved,
The keyless entry?
we did approve that that's where we were going next.
Yeah, I don't think we said go do it.
Voted on doing it. We said we had to do the building, then we would move up to administration. So would you like it on the agenda
For next month, I think, yeah. That'd be something to get done.
Well, it'd be nice for me too, because I mean, all the issuance of keys and whatnot, they'd make things a lot neater, cleaner, and more secure for sure.
Yeah,
So,
bring that on for next month.
all right, very good.
Anything else for Wes? Any old business come before the committee? Any old business? Any new business? Any other business? Take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Snipes, second by Mr. Featherling. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.